Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Snakes and Scotch live stream or Scotch and Snake. What do I call this? Snakes and Scotch, something like that. Anyway, hi everybody. Ozak, how's it going? Oh, Ozak was in at 3:30. Ralph and Brandon. Moniz is in. Schlee. Hi there. Hi everybody. I've got somebody comment please and let me know that you can see and hear me. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? Hang on. I'm going to double check on my phone because I'm using a new software this time. I'm just going to go on to. I've got Ron here, by the way. We're going to talk about him in a second. Oh, you can see in here. Okay, great. A whole bunch. All of a sudden, I didn't have any comments at all, and then all of a sudden, they all came in. That hot librarian. Hi there, Chuck. Great. Catherine. Hello. Hi, everybody. So somebody just was watching the video that I made when I think it was the one when I purchased Ron here. For those of you who don't know, Ron is the father of two of my what I think are my most impressive babies. Ron is a spot nose inchy asphalt, and he's working on making some really cool freeways this year, hopefully. But the comment was that Ron seems like such a sweet snake, and he has such a great personality. And you know, he's one of those snakes that I don't forget about Ron, but I don't show him very often, and it's just because he's really shy. Like he's not fearful, and when I pull him out of his hide, he likes to come out and explore, and he does so fairly boldly. But he is such a shy snake normally in that he's in his hide like 100% of the time. If I come out here in the middle of the night and I open his tub, he's probably going to be in his hide. So he just, hi buddy. Hi, I see you. So he's just a snake that I know doesn't, I don't like to rip him out of his hide when he's in there. But I thought because I just saw that comment, I thought, you know what, we're gonna start off with Ron today because he's super cool and he has a guitar on his head. Look at that! Look at that perfect guitar head stamp that the spot nose gene gave him. You guys, look at this. I feel like the camera is focusing on the snakes. This might be the way to go, you guys, with the live stream. Is with this software and the camera setup like this. It's so hard to get cameras to focus on snakes. All right, so here's the situation, you guys. We are, usually I have to end these after about an hour and a half or so because I normally teach at 6:30 on Tuesdays. That's why Lucy comes in at the end of these live streams usually because she's my 6:30 lesson. And she is not coming today, so we've got more time, and we'll see if we end up going longer than an hour and a half. But I have a bunch of questions, and we're gonna talk about a bunch of interesting stuff. You can barely hear. Is that true, you guys? Hang on. Hang on. Let me do this really quick. Sorry, Ronald. How about now? I'm going to turn the gain up a little bit. Is the sound... Somebody tell me about the sound now. Thanks for the heads up, you guys, on that. I'm not muted, and it's coming in... It's... All right. Well, now I'm guessing that I'm going to get a bunch of comments here in a second. Let's see. Better. Okay, so... All right, I'm going to turn the gain up even more, and I'm going to move this closer to me because I think the mic is working. I think I just didn't have it set very well. Okay, sounds fine. Great. Okay, let me know. I'm going to try to keep these off if possible, so let me know if there's a problem. Let's see. Okay. So, what was I talking about? Yeah, sorry guys. I just had I've got this really sketchy setup right now. I'm sitting on a stool, and I have another stool, just like the one I'm sitting on, right in front of me, and I have a cajon drum sitting on that, and then my computer sitting on that. So I've got this like stack of things. Uh, but I like this for a background, and I think eventually we'll end up with a super dwarf probably on the ladder here next to me. Um, but that's the situation. So, oh, Leandro, that's really nice of you to say. Hi, Kat. Hi, Keith. Lori. Emery. Great. Okay, good. I'm glad you all can you can hear better now. One of the reasons that, other than just being silly, one of the reasons that I wear these hats when I do the live stream is for this. And this is the best hat out of the one. It's not my favorite, but it is the best hat for snakes crawling onto, because the brim is really stiff, and they're not going to fall off of it. So, oh, you're going to talk into the microphone there, Ronald. So anyway, let's do this. I'm going to start answering a couple questions, and then we'll just go from there. By the way, you guys, the channel just hit 5,000 subscribers, so I'm really excited about that. That's kind of a milestone in YouTube land. It's a bit of a milestone. So thank you to those who have subscribed and supported the channel. I really appreciate it. I think, being just over a year into this channel, 5,000 subscribers, I'm totally happy with. I sometimes get comments from people saying, oh, this channel's really underrated, which is a nice thing to say. But I think those people don't realize how new the channel is. A channel that's only been up for a year or so is still a brand new channel. So I don't feel like it's underrated at all. I think I feel like it's doing very well, and I'm getting better, I think, at producing videos. There's certainly stuff that are not my skill set, like editing, things like that. So I think as I get better, the channel will get more subscribers. But 5,000 in just over a year, I'm totally happy with. So thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Thanks for the congrats, you guys. So Ron, what can I say about Ron? There were people asking about, since I have Ron here, we'll just jump to that question, asking about breeding plants and such like that. So I only have a small group of breeding ball pythons, and Ron here is one of them. So I'm repeating the pairing of Ron and Freya because they made such great babies last year, and I was really happy with them. So I'm repeating that pairing. And the nice thing about that is, asphalt is allelic to yellow belly, and that's one of those genes like gravel that you can't tell the difference between yellow belly and asphalt, or yellow belly and gravel. He's got asphalt. Freya does not have yellow belly or anything in that complex. So anything that's yellow belly that comes out of that pairing is 100% for sure asphalt. Whereas I'm pairing Ron and Kata. Kata was just out roaming around earlier. Maybe I'll bring her out. She's a big girl. She's been eating a lot. But they've been paired up, and Kata is a ivory, so she's a super yellow belly. So she'll always throw yellow belly, and so everything that comes out of that pairing will either be a freeway if Ron throws his asphalt, or it'll be for sure a yellow belly. So that's cool. So hopefully we'll get some freeways this year out of that pairing. And then I'm pairing the Inspector with Damara again. If you remember, she last season laid a clutch of slugs, so we'll see how that goes this season. And I'm pairing him with Lucille as well. And I paired them last year, and Lucille did not go, so we'll see what happens this year with that. So I only have 4 females that I'm pairing. Those are my plans. That's I think my big exciting well, two exciting things coming out of this is I love freeways, and I'm excited to maybe get some freeways, and then hopefully we'll get some babies from the inspector, and we'll get to prove out some of those genes that we're not quite sure of in him. Find out if he's a super orange dream. Find out if he's a super inchy. Find out if he in fact has fire in him. He is banana for sure. He is orange dream and inchy for sure. And we'll see what else is there. So he was produced. The inspector was produced by Garrick DeMeyer, and Garrick thinks that he is super inchy. He's pretty sure he's super inchy, but didn't guarantee it. And I mean, it's tough to guarantee genes anyway. But he said he's possibly super orange dream. It's tough when you've got banana. Banana hides so much. You know, it's such a visually dominant gene that it hides a lot of stuff. So I want to prove him out. Keith says baby inspectors, constables. Yes, definitely one's going to be named Constable, at least one, or maybe all of them. I love that idea. You know, Jordan, I'm now going from the most recent comments and I'm going up. I just read Jordan's asking about the humidifier. Leaves lots of white dust. Will it harm the snakes? You know, no, I don't. I shouldn't say that for sure. I don't think it will. I have a humidifier that does that too. It's not the humidifier that does it. It's your water, is what I found out. And it's my water too. I got white dust on everything. So I stopped using it. I think maybe if you use, what's the type of water that I'm thinking of that I can't think right now? Distilled water. That'll probably help the white dust situation. I don't think it'll harm the snakes, but it is annoying and it caused me to dust way more often than I wanted to. So I just stopped using the humidifier. Laura, you want a baby from the next Ron and Freya pairing? That'll be a 1 year younger sibling to Marie, your current snake. Let's see. Oh, Danielle, great. I'm glad the videos are helping. Thanks so much for the compliments, you guys. Okay, so yeah, Chuck's saying use distilled water. The white stuff will go away. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thought too. I didn't want to buy distilled water just to run a humidifier. My place is usually it's either too humid or it's too dry, and I just wasn't. I have a Govee humidifier, which is cool. I can set it up to like detect when it needs to turn on, and then it just turns on. But it was weird for me to run. Plus, if I'm out of town and it just runs out of water, then it's not going to do anything. So it's just in storage now. Does anybody want a Govee humidifier? Okay. Andrew's saying purified water. Yeah, maybe just purified will do it. So let's do this. Let me start going over. Okay, you guys, I'm going to turn on the... Somebody tell me if this air conditioning unit is so loud that it's annoying. Because I don't know how it picks up on the mic. I guess I could put my headphones on. But I'm going to read these first. Tell me if that AC is annoying. Because my level of heat right now is annoying. So, all right, Aaron. Okay, I'm going through the Patreon questions first. Aaron's asking, your name is Green Room Pythons, but do you have any other pets? Also, do you have any plan to branch out and get other types of snakes / reptiles in the future? The only other pet that I have, and I put have in quotes because McKenna, the very lovely dog, is not technically mine. It's my neighbor Yoli's, and Yoli's one of my closest friends in the world. And McKenna kind of adopted me when I moved in, and she sits on my front doorstep, and she knows how to open my screen door. So if my door's open and my screen door is closed, McKenna knows how to open it, and she just comes in. But I've taught McKenna some tricks, and she knows that I have treats for her always, and she comes in and hangs out on the couch with me a lot. So I consider her my dog also. And she has been featured in at least one Green Room Pythons video. And if I hear that she's right outside, maybe I'll bring her in. She's fantastic. And then I have a couple other species of python. I have a couple of super dwarf reticulated pythons and a black-headed python, which many of you have already met. And, you know, the reason I've been a reptile guy my whole life. I've had reptiles since I was a kid, and I love lizards. I'm a big fan of lizards, but I don't have them because I am out of town so often that I need I need an animal that doesn't eat every day. You know, the reason that I got into having pythons specifically or snakes specifically is that I can leave and be gone for like a week. I'm not usually gone a week. I'm usually only gone a few days, but you know, you can leave these guys alone for days and they don't mind, and they don't need to eat necessarily. They just need fresh water. So until, you know, and probably until I know that I'm not going to be like a traveling person, a traveling performer or whatever, I probably will stick with snakes. But there are some lizards that I love. I'd love to have a Asian water monitor. That'd be cool if I had this. I mean, I don't have the space for it now, but there's a lot of reptiles that I really like. Good. I'm glad that the AC does not bother you guys, because I'm going to keep it on. Leandro is saying her snake hasn't eaten in a couple months. Nothing's changed inside the enclosure compared to when she ate. You know, you might still want to change some stuff. Sometimes a change of substrate, just something different, helps. You know, obviously, I'm sure you've already double checked the temps and things like that, but check all that and then make some minor changes. The other change you might try is just a different prey item. Go from either mice to rats or from rats to mice, just to get the snake eating again. I'm not saying switch them permanently. You know, if they're currently on rats, don't give them 5 or 6 or 10 mice in a row, because that could potentially switch them permanently. And you don't want to do that. You just want to get them eating again. So I do that occasionally. And by the way, you know, I accidentally bought an extra bag of jumbo mice. I buy jumbo mice specifically for Lucille, but I also use them. We'll get Lucille out too in a minute. Somebody remind me of that, because she's a good one to show. So Lucille eats mice, and I occasionally use those mice to get other snakes that haven't eaten in a while to just take a meal. And I bought an extra bag, and I'm like, man, I'm never going to go through these. This is a huge bag of jumbo mice. So I've been feeding my young ones jumbo mice every other week, and so they get a weaned rat, and then a jumbo mouse, and then a weaned rat. So that's what's been happening. I'm gonna put Ron back because he's a little crazy right now. Let's see if I can reach his home is right below me. Oh, you don't want to go back? All right, I'm gonna give you the option. What was I talking about? There was something that I wanted to say. Oh, by the way, you guys, let's get this out of the way. I'm onto a. I might end up finishing this bottle of Lagavulin 16 for those of you who are interested in the Scotch that I'm drinking. And as many of you know, I usually don't drink much of this Scotch because I get to talking and I forget that I have Scotch. Even though these are always Snakes and Scotch live streams, I'm not a huge drinker. Like, I'm not always drinking this stuff. And oh man, it's so good. I tend to forget that I have it next to me. So, man, that Lagavulin 16, that is, we're going to get back to what I was saying in just a second. So Lagavulin is the stuff that Nick Offerman promotes. Nick Offerman is Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. By the way, he's why this young man is named Ron, because he has a mustache. And Ron Burgundy also has a mustache. So that's why Ron got his name. And also, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I was on an episode of Parks and Rec. We're going to talk about my acting career because people were asking about it. Anyway, the point is, let's get back to Lagavulin. Man, I'm really going on these little side side trips in my talking tonight. Lagavulin is delicious, and it tastes like, I've said this before, but it tastes like leather thrown into a campfire, and then garden soil rolled into it, mixed with a healthy dose of like seawater, ocean water, brine. That doesn't sound delicious when I say it, but if you haven't had Lagavulin, you might hate it. And you also might love it. You're either going to love it or hate it. And there's my, can you see that it says Green Room Pythons on there? I had one. I had two of these made. I had one that had the snakehead logo, and I broke it. Such a bummer. Okay, let me catch up on what you guys are saying here real quick, and then we're going to get back to Patreon questions. Because I've only done one Patreon question, and I think I started answering that one 20 minutes ago. Let's see. Moni's, Allie just ate, and now she's favoring the cool hide. Check the warm hide for steaming. It's normal, so she didn't poop in there. No, she'll, sometimes they do that. It's weird. I have, Tiger Lily, every time she eats, for the next 24 hours, she's in her cool hide, which is so weird. I don't know why she does that, but some snakes will do that, and they'll thermoregulate themselves. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think she's just doing whatever she wants to do. But it's good to check that. Make sure that the hot side is not too hot. Make sure that they didn't poop in there, because obviously that's what it usually is. When I see my snake somewhere that they're not normally at, it's that they pooped in their hide. So check for that. That hot librarian, thanks so much for the Scotch fund, and congrats on the 5K. I appreciate that. It's really nice of you. Let's see if Ron can stand my hat here. See how sturdy this is? I mean, Ron's a pretty heavy snake. Hey, don't go on the ladder, dude. Don't go on the ladder. Shlee, that's really nice of you to say. Shlee says, I could listen to your stories forever. If you ever become an audiobook reader or reader for audiobooks, I'm all in. I would love to have that audiobook money. I don't know that I'm a good enough, like, just out loud reader. I do voiceover for cartoons occasionally, but in those I just read a line at a time, and it's really simple. I think I'd have a hard time. I've thought about that before. I think I would have a hard time trying to read audiobooks. Hang on, I'm just trying to catch up. As always, you guys, I might miss your question, and I apologize for that. I will always see a super chat. In fact, there's one right there. Lori, thank you so much, from Marie and Darwin. That's a really nice super chat. I appreciate that. It didn't even come with a question. Oh yeah, Jordan just made a really good point, actually. Their body temp goes up when digesting, so they'll sometimes stay on the cool side. I mean, that might be the thing, is that right after they ate food, trying to keep him from falling. Look at his head coming around. That's really cute. Maybe in Tiger Lily's case, it might be that her body temp goes up to a place that she's not comfortable with right after she's eaten food. So, that's a good thought, Jordan. Okay. Mary says, "What cartoons?" We'll talk about that. I'm gonna, because that question was asked by a couple people about what I do. Hi, buddy. Hi. Are you getting kind of crazy? The question came up of what I do outside of this, and we're going to talk about that. I want to go through these Patreon questions, though, because I don't want to get too far into the weeds before we, and then forget about what I'm supposed to be doing here. Okay, so Tracy's asking, what pets, if any, do you think should not be in the same home with ball pythons? I don't think there's any pet that shouldn't be in the same home with a ball python. But I am one of those people, and many of you maybe sitting here might disagree with me because you've got a special situation or whatever, but I don't think that your ball python should meet your dog or your cat. And and I know that when you have a dog or a cat, you know that animal so well, and you're like, man, this animal would never hurt my snake. Like it's such a docile animal, and it's not afraid of the snake, and they've been around together. And I understand that, but I also have seen so many times where people go, my dog is the nicest dog ever. I don't know why it bit that person, or I don't know why the cat all of a sudden scratched that kid because it's never done that before. So even though animals are predictable, they're also not sometimes. And so, hey, why did you do that? I'm not going to wrestle with him right now. I'm going to wait till he gets himself. You know what? This could actually be a problem because he's too heavy for this. This is going to come crashing down. All right, so just to finish my point before I talk about this for a second, I just think that occasionally animals are not predictable, and so I just think the safest thing is to not have. You're tearing the thing down, dude. Hang on. I have to give him some support. This is a. All right. I think it's. I want to finish my thought there while this is happening. So, I don't think that your ball python should meet other animals, and I also, I have a very dangerous animal for a ball python in the same house, and they'll never meet, and that is a black-headed python. They eat other snakes, and so, you might have a California king snake or something like that that would eat a ball python. So they just would never meet, right? So I just use that rule. I think you could have anything you want. You could have a bear. A bear would probably not do well with a ball python, but you could have one. Just don't let your bear meet your ball python. Or if you're the tiger king, they just shouldn't meet. That's all. Oh, this is. Hang on. Now I'm gonna move this stool out of the way. I'm so pinned in here, you guys. I made this really comfortable for myself, but it's not comfortable to undo. Hey, excuse my back for a moment. Hey, dude, can we? Is that fun? Was that fun to explore? Okay. There you go. All right. This is the first. This is the first time an adult ball python has been on the on the ladder, and it was an accident. But some of his children have been on the ladder, but he never has. Was that cool? Did you like that, dude? Okay. There we go. So. Okay, let's see. Hang on. So, I mean, Keith, that's a thing too. Keith is saying, I'm concerned that a snake might get out one day while we're at a house, so I've been trying to get our cat sufficiently used to the snakes so as to leave them alone. I mean, I agree with that logic. I think if it were me, I would just, and I'm sure you're doing this, you just make sure that you're supervising and that you're right there just in case anything were to happen. But the most important thing would be to figure out why is it that you think your snake might get out, and then fix that problem with the enclosure, because you don't want snakes getting out ever. Chuck, you're right. Cali King would have a heck of a time with a ball python. But I'm not talking about a ball python this size. I'm talking about babies. And a lot of folks have little baby ball pythons with Cal Kings. A blackhead would have, I mean, not an adult, not a full-grown adult blackhead, but, well, I bet a full-grown adult blackhead could eat an adult ball python. I bet they'd try at least. I bet they'd regurgitate it. Anyway, different sizes. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Lori. Lori says, I was a vet tech for almost 30 years. Can't tell you how many injured animals came in that we never thought this would happen, and it did. Yeah. That is the thing. Okay, you know what? I am going to put you back because now you're getting a little crazy. Excuse me a minute, folks. I'm going to put this guy back. He is just hanging on. And then I'm going to put my stool back. So what this tells me is I think he's into exploring, and I probably should have him out more exploring. At his size, I wouldn't let him just free roam like some of the big females do, but I would give him more supervised roaming time. I think once, he's usually not out for this long when I handle him, and at this point he's like just all over the place wanting to explore. So we'll do more of that with you, all right? But right now I'm putting you back. All right, hang on one second. There you go, dude. Good job. You're a good boy. Yeah. Okay. So, you know what? I'm going to move this whole setup back a little bit. Okay. Hi, you guys. I'm back. Anna's proving my point. I have a baby ball python and a subadult MBK. Would be a disaster meeting. Yeah, for sure. Keith, me too, man. As for the snakes getting out, my concern is me until I invent self-locking enclosures. Let me know if you invent a self-locking enclosure. I only twice, and I've said this in videos before, that the vivarium here, I have a reminder on my phone that goes off at 9 o'clock every night to lock the vivarium, and I've had it ever since I've had the vivarium. Twice it's been unlocked, and the second time was just 2 days ago. I looked over at 9 o'clock and I was like, what? Like, this thing's never unlocked. And it was unlocked, and he comes out at night in the middle of the night to explore, and he definitely pushes on the glass. If I ever went to bed with that unlocked, he would definitely be out. Now, he would probably be easy to find. I'm not super worried about it, but I'm worried enough to not ever, make that mistake. Yeah, Emery, I think that you're saying your sister's dog met the snake. I think in most cases it would be fine. If your snake is used to having movement around them and things like that, they're not always defensively striking, they're going to be okay. A dog or a cat is probably going to be okay. I shouldn't say cat. I don't know cats very well, but you never know. So, yeah, good point. Don't like any other animal going near my snakes. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so Northern Light says, can you show us some of your training with your snakes? Yeah, that's next video. Are you only training to feed them, or are you also training other things with them? I saw a video of Lori Turini training a bull snake to push a little cat ball into a basket. Yeah, that was really cool. I am not as cool as Lori, and I am just target training some of my snakes to follow a target for food. That's it right now. Lori, for one thing, Lori Torini, who might be in here right now, or maybe she will later. She doesn't sleep. She is a supernatural human being, and she's up all night with her snakes. I sleep early and wake up early, but I spend time with my snakes in the morning, and then if I'm home during the day, during the day. But I don't have all that time to do tons of training, but I do target train the ones that are food motivated enough. And that's going to be next week's video. It was going to be this week's video, but I got really busy last week and could not get the video produced. So I'm going to work on it this week. And that's why we're doing a live right now. And I'm glad you all are here with me. These lives don't get as much attention, and that's okay, because I think I have fun doing them, and I think you guys have fun seeing them, but they don't get as much attention. But if you hit the like button, they will get pushed out to more people on the replay. So hit the like button if you would. That would be nice. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Northern Lights had some ideas for videos for me, and those are good ideas. I'll just do the videos. Okay, so Midnight Mandy says, I'm interested in learning more about you as a person. I've had a couple of people that said this. I joined for the snakes, but stayed for your personality. That's really nice. For instance, so I'm just going to answer these as they go. Where do you live, ish? I live in Los Angeles, ish, but more specifically Burbank. I live at 173. No, I'm kidding. I live in Burbank. Do you have a job career that isn't related to reptiles? Yes, I have several. I do a lot of things. I am a stand-up comedian, touring. I tour festivals mainly, and do a show that I wrote that's specifically for like historical festivals, like Renaissance festivals and stuff like that. I used to tour comedy clubs, but I don't do that anymore because you end up on the road a lot, and I can do better at these festivals and just do a weekend and come back and be in Los Angeles, where I sometimes work as an actor, sometimes writer, sometimes producer. Usually when I'm working, it's as an actor on a set, but you never know when those jobs are going to come. So I have been auditioning a lot lately, but I haven't booked anything lately, which is such a bummer. And that's also the reason that I didn't produce a video last week, because I had tons of last minute auditions that I had to do. So I do that. I teach music. I took a larger student load on when the pandemic hit. I had a few students during the week before the pandemic, and I worked a couple days a week at this music school teaching guitar, mandolin, banjo, and ukulele. And so I just had this handful of students. But then when the pandemic hit, all my touring dried up, and Hollywood shut down as far as producing TV shows and movies, so I wasn't auditioning either. So I took on a full load of students, and then started this channel. So now I've cut back on my students now a little bit, but I've got this channel that I produce now, and auditions are happening now, and so it's getting very busy for me. But that's okay. I enjoy it. So is that it? So yeah, music and comedy. I do these festivals, and I just got back from one. I'm exhausted. I did 10 shows in 3 days this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm surprised I have a voice as good as I do right now. It's a little bit scratchy, but it was a lot. Okay. So that was that question. Hold on. Where are we at? What are your non-reptile hobbies? That's it. I basically, every time I have a hobby, I figure out how to make it something that I can make some income on. So, playing music is a hobby of mine, and I don't think, it's reptiles, music, comedy. What else do I do that's a hobby? I really enjoy fishing, but I haven't done it in a long time. there's a lot of things that I enjoy doing, but oh, I roast my own coffee beans. That's a hobby. You can call that a hobby. I buy green coffee beans from farms all over the world from this one supplier, and I roast them. So that's fun to do. And I'm not going to make that a job. So that's one thing that I won't make money on. And I sometimes, not today, I'm not drinking it today, but sometimes I barrel my own whiskey. Not my own whiskey, but I'll take a cheap whiskey like a Jim Beam or a Jack Daniels or something that's inexpensive and throw it in a barrel. Not a big one, but like a 3-4 liter barrel, and age it for a couple months, and it changes the flavor. Sometimes I'll age it with some coffee beans. Sometimes I'll age it with a vanilla bean, and it changes things and makes it more complex and interesting. So that's a hobby. So there we go. What are your breeding goals with your snakes? We talked about that. We talked about the breeding. Are you working toward producing a certain animal? Yes. So the further goals, I'm working with a lot of multi. I have a lot of multi recessive gene animals. So I'm trying to do a clown pied project and an ultramel pied project, or an ultramel hypopide project. And this year I'm just hoping to get some really cool freeways. So that's that. How many snakes do you plan to have in your collection? You know, that's tough because I don't want to be somebody who has so many snakes that it becomes almost unmanageable. You know, I don't want to have to hire employees, other than Kent, obviously. But you know, right now I have 18 snakes total. That's a very small amount compared to many of you. And I think that my goal is, it's not a number of snakes. It's that I want to work with the species that I find really interesting. I find ball pythons really interesting because of the genetics. I find super dwarf reticulated pythons really interesting because of their story and their personality. Black-headed pythons, same thing. So I want to have a handful of species. There's a couple other species that I have my eye on. You know, I think that I will probably always have more ball pythons than anything else. But I didn't answer the question. I don't know what the number is. It's not 200, though. That's for sure. It's not even 100. It's a lot of snakes, man. People that have 100 plus snakes, that's a lot to deal with. Okay. Those are all great questions, Midnight Mandy. Thanks for those. Okay, the Harpers have a bunch of questions too. This is more about being a comedian. As a reptile keeping comedian, have reptiles ever made it into your comedy material? If so, care to share any with us? They haven't, actually, because the last time, you know, usually when I do a comedy club appearance, it's usually in Los Angeles, and I'm not like doing an hour or even half an hour. It's like 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, something like that. And because I'm not really a comedy club performer anymore, and I don't care, like I'm not trying to write this awesome comedy club set, and I don't want to do my old material that I was doing 15 years ago or whatever. I usually write something just for that show, and if it turns out awesome, then I keep it. But I usually just bail on it. It'll be weird and interesting, and it'll be fun for me because it's the first time I've performed it. It'll be fresh for the audience. I've done it for long enough that I know what's going to get a decent reaction, you know, and it's usually something that's really weird and off the wall, and reptiles have not made it into my act. I used to have a bit about being a pet owner, but it wasn't reptiles. It was something else. It was this weird thing, and I don't care to do it because doing stand-up to a camera with no audience is really awkward. Okay, more from the Harpers. The Harpers always have really interesting questions. Hold on, let me get to the chat really quick and see what's happening in this chat because I haven't looked at it in a while. And then we'll get back to the Harpers questions. Hey Zach, hey everybody. Good to see you all that are jumping in. Lori says you said remind you to take out Lucille. I will right now. We'll do that right now. Watch this. Wait. There we go. All right. Let's see what Lucille's up to. Hi, pretty girl. I see you. All right. So, this young lady is not quite awake yet. She's in the front part of her breeding season right now. She's locked up with the inspector once so far, and she's about to again in the next couple days as soon as he sheds. He's in deep shed right now. I was going to pair them up yesterday, and I thought I'd just wait till he sheds. So, that's what's happening. But Lucille is another one that she likes to stay in her hide. She comes out more because I open her tub. She's big enough where I'm comfortable having her out, just roaming around. And so she comes out and does that. But otherwise, she spends all her time in her hide pretty much. And she used to be a snake that would roam a lot and never hide, but now she's found this big, tall standing mirror that I have, and she joins Damara back there, and they curl up and hang out behind the mirror. Okay, oh wait, I'm back, so I'm going to take this little thing off. See all the tricky things that I have, you guys, on this? It's going to get better, too. I'm going to learn how to use this thing. Jordan, we need a green room python, a green python room full. What you mean a green room python? You mean I need a website? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I've thought about that. My false water cobra was an easy target to train. It was easy to target train. See how bad I would be at narrating books. Yeah, false water cobras I've heard are really smart. I bet that's a good target training subject. Zach is asking, what are your thoughts on purchasing a spot nose pos het clown to breed to a leopard clown? The parents of the spot nose were leopard, 100% het clown, spot nose, 100% het clown. I mean, I think that's cool. I have one pairing that I'm doing. I like buying 100% het. Like if I'm buying a het, I want to know that it's a het. So, for instance, I'll have a sunset project going next year. I have Evie, who's 100% het sunset, and the Sundance Kid, who's 100% het sunset. And so I know that I'll eventually see some sunsets out of that pairing if babies come out of it. But I do have one pairing where we're not sure. So Molly Malone is my Ultramel girl that makes it onto a lot of the videos, and she is Ultramel 100% het pied and 66% het hypo. And when I bought her, I didn't really care about the hypo. I didn't think I'd prove it out. But then I bought another snake from Aussie Boyd's recently that's a pied. Wait, what is he? He's a pied 100% het hypo. Okay, so we can take his 100% het hypo, and Molly is 66% het hypo, and we could try to prove that out. But then he's also 50% het Ultramel. So she is an Ultramel. So we'll either make het babies because she's a visual, or it'll either be all het babies, or we'll prove him out as het Ultramel. So those are kind of fun to do. My point is, it's fun to do, but they don't always prove out. But you get a good deal on those snakes. Like if Captain Farrell, who's the pied possible het hypo, possible het Ultramel, if he proves out both of those, or even one of those, I got a great deal on that snake. And if they don't prove out, then I paid a normal price for that snake, basically. I mean, I bought it from Ozzy Boyd's, and Ozzy doesn't sell his snakes cheaply, but that's okay. He has very quality animals, so. Um, AJ asks, are fake plants safe to use from the dollar store, safe to use in your enclosure? Yes, that is where I get all my fake plants from. I don't recommend buying reptile fake plants because they are exactly what you would find at the dollar store, except sometimes the dollar store fake plants have uh, sharp metal pieces in them, so just be careful of those. Make sure you're not putting anything sharp in there. But that's what you do. And then if you paid $1 for it and it gets really messed up, like the animal poops all over it, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to clean this, you just throw it away because you just paid $1 for it, you know. Let's see, Joshua, thanks so much for the compliment. I appreciate that. Um, Hang on, guys. Okay, so you guys are talking. All right. Okay, now I'm getting to people reacting to Lucille. I'm glad that you guys love Lucille. She's such a sweet snake, and look at this. I'm gonna tell you what I mean by sweet here in a second. Look at her. Hey, can I show your back for a second? Look at her little emoji face. And she does get her Dalmatian spots. She gets more of them every time she sheds. You know, I look at her. It's tough because I look at these spots and I go, was that there before you shed last time? Was this on the tip of your tail? Was that there before? Like I need to log all the spots on her and you know, figure out if she really is. I think she gets one spot. I think she gets about a spot every time she sheds. Well, that wouldn't be true. She'd have a lot more than this. Anyway, the point is, it's interesting. What I mean by she's a really sweet snake is that she doesn't ever, like, she's always just happy to do whatever. She doesn't ever complain. She's happy to be held awkwardly by me right now. She's always fine coming out of her enclosure or being in her enclosure or being anywhere. She's just really cool. So Alexandria is asking, did you name her Lucille from The Walking Dead? I didn't, but I have seen that reference. I used to watch The Walking Dead, and I haven't seen it since before Lucille was a thing on The Walking Dead. That's the name of a bat, I think, if I'm right. I named her Lucille because this little sarcastic face on her back reminded me of the comedy and drama masks. And so I thought, oh, I'll name her after a female comedian. And I was going to name her after Sarah Silverman. And then I thought, well, no, I'll name her Lucille Ball because that's obvious, right? And I like the name Lucille. I think it's a good name. So I always thought it was cool that B.B. King named his guitar Lucille. Have you ever had spotted pythons? I've never had a spotted python or any of the Antaresia, although I would like to. So they were always really aggressive. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any experience with Antaresia. I know they're tiny and cool. I'd like to at some point. Moni's asking what pairing makes a paradox. No pairing makes a paradox. Paradox is just a fluke thing that happens, and it's not something that gets passed on genetically. It just happens. So if you guys have seen Skittles, that really crazy ball python, I don't even know what genetics it has, but it's some crazy genetics plus paradox, and it has two different colored eyes. Just look up Skittles ball python, you'll probably find it. Really cool. Paradox is great. And the spots here are, this is called a Dalmatian pied, but the spots on a pied like this, the Dalmatian spots, are a paradox. so she won't necessarily pass these genetically to her kids. And some ball python, I saw one at the Pomona show. I think there was a pied with tons of spots, like all over, and she looked amazing. In fact, I think Dave Kaufman did a video. I think that ended up being the best snake of the show, if I remember right. On Dave Kaufman's thing, you know how he does best lizard, best snake, best turtle, whatever. Chuck, really good point. I do have video. I do probably have plenty of video for Lucille that I can check the spots that way. Great point. Cindy, how do you choose names for your snakes? You know, I try to be really intentional because this is a snake that I'm going to have for forever, and I want to be happy with their name. So it's usually something meaningful to, you know, that has to do with the snake's personality or their look, or I'll just decide. Like I bought Freya and Damara, who are two other breeding females that I have. I bought them as adults, and I named them after fertility goddesses. So those are those names. I just have different, you know, just kind of whatever I decide. But I like naming my snakes. You know, there's a lot of people that have tons of snakes that none of them have names. It's important to me. I like having snakes with cool names, you know. DAZZZ3DX. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not. No, I am going to try. Des3Dix. Three dicks. I don't like the pronunciation at the end of that name. This is a family show. Just found your channel recently, liking it a lot. Are you from the States? Yes, I am. Do you go to many reptile shows? Yeah, I try to. I would love to be at Tenley this weekend. That would be great. I am in California this weekend though. But I'd like to go to Tenley maybe next year. We'll see. Oh, Jordan, you're right. I think you're right about this. Skittles is a chimera, not just not just paradox. There are some really cool paradoxes though. But again, but same situation with Skittles being a chimera. I don't know if that means, can chimeras even reproduce? I don't know with ball pythons. I don't know enough about that, but that's it. That wouldn't pass on. That's still a paradox look. You know, that phenotype would not pass on. Destry, this is a good question. Are piebalds found in the wild? I believe piebalds have been found in the wild. I know that the first albinos were found in the wild. This is not an evolutionary advantage at all. It's crazy that the first albino ball pythons were found in the wild because they're like a highlighter pen slithering through the grasslands, you know, and would not survive. You know, the snake would not have a chance of surviving in the wild. But also the chances of two ball pythons with the piebald gene coming together is really unlikely. Although I think they have found pieds in the wild. I think I've read that. I might be wrong, though. Somebody else answer that if you know the answer. Most of these genes are not evolutionary advantages. They're just genetic mutations. But the ones that make them bright are definitely not an advantage in the wild. My baby ball python has a patch of paradox near his left eye. Can it grow? Can it disappear? Yep, both. I love it though. It looks like it has freckles. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is you never know. As they shed, you can see pattern change sometimes, especially paradox stuff. You don't know if it's going to get bigger or smaller or what, but stuff can certainly change. Um, let's see. Mackie is asking, when you try to bring out the inspector, do you just happen to stumble upon them out of their hides, or do you get them out of the butt? I just pull him out. He's always in his hide, unless it's around 10 o'clock. He'll come out for a stroll, but otherwise he's always in his hide. So I just take apart his hide and pull him out when I'm pulling him out. And if he's out roaming, I don't pull him out then because I want him to have his time to do his thing. Like I don't want him to ever feel like when he comes out of his hide, he's going to be captured by the big monkey that feeds him. So he does well. I don't think he likes to be woken up and pulled out of his hide, but he does fine when I take him out. But yeah, it does take a minute to pull the hide apart and put it back together because that's basically just a wood pile. Lori says she thinks Skittles had babies. That's cool. I'd like to see the babies. I doubt they have any Skittles, but it would be interesting to see those babies anyway. Wait a second. This is Skittles, AJ. It's called Skittles Paradox Albino Pied Pewter Chimera. So the genes in it are albino pied pewter. Chimera and Paradox and Skittles are not. I mean, Skittles is just the name of that whole situation that one snake has. But it's basically a two recessive gene, and then pewter. Oh wait, is pewter a combo? I think pewter might be a combo. Somebody tell me what pewter is. I think it's a combo of two genes, maybe. Anyway. Let's see. Lori, you're saying prehistoric predator. Do you mean prehistoric pets? Is that what you're talking about? Jay, that guy just unveiled their blue-eyed leucistic king cobra. That's interesting. Yeah, that's such a bummer that Lilith died. That was such a cool snake. I loved watching those videos. That's interesting. If there's another one, that's really cool. Thomas is asking, how difficult is it to identify urine in your bioactive setup? Not difficult at all because those urates are white, so they show up really, really well. I do look for it and clean it. The cleanup crew, you guys, I have tons of cleanup crew in there. I have dwarf isopods all over that thing and springtails all over that thing. They would never eat my snake would get a respiratory infection before they ate a full poop. And they don't eat the urates anyway, apparently. So you definitely have to pull the urates out. Definitely pull the poop out. A year and a half ago or so, the inspector got a respiratory infection. There's a video about it, and I think it was because I wasn't cleaning his hide well enough. I think he probably peed in there, and I wasn't wiping the glass off on a regular basis, just because I hadn't thought about it. And so who knows? I mean, I think it was a bacterial respiratory infection, and that was probably why. Now I'm really meticulous about cleaning it. But definitely, if you have a bioactive enclosure, you definitely have to spot clean and clean the glass and clean the inside of the hides. But that's way easier than changing substrate. That thing is almost 2 years old, and I have yet to change the substrate. I've added substrate to it. You have to do that occasionally because it packs down, and I guess I don't know what happens to it, but you end up having to add substrate. So good question. Oh, Laura, you're saying primitive predators. I'll have to look at that. I don't know who that is. I'll have to look that up. That's cool that they got another albino king cobra. Those king cobras are crazy. Okay. So, hold on. We're back to the Harper's questions. What sort of material do you think would be included in a fun, entertaining, but also educational live reptile experience slash outreach program? And would you ever consider offering these? Yeah, well, yes, I would love to do that, but with everything else that I do, I wouldn't want to add that to my plate. But I do think that's cool, and I would do it, and I have done it for friends. Like my friend Melanie has a little daughter who's the cutest kid in the world, who's like, I think she was turning 5, maybe. And so her and all her little friends had a birthday party, and Melanie asked me if I would come over and bring snakes. She was like, "Will you juggle fire and bring snakes and dress up and just do whatever?" So I did that and gave a little reptile show. And for the young kids, well, for anybody, it's just about being a good presenter, being fun, and that comes naturally for me just because I've been a stand-up comic for forever, and I am always in front of people. So I think that's part of it, just being able to speak confidently in front of people and make things entertaining. But yeah, I mean, I would do that. Like if I had a friend whose kid was, was doing like a genetics thing in their science class, and the teacher wanted me to bring some snakes in, I totally would do that, and I would make it fun. That would be a good time. But I don't think I want to do that like on a regular basis. This snake is a little bit heavy for the brim of my hat. And you were coming around. I'm so sorry. You were coming around. I didn't realize. Can we do this? Can I put you on my neck instead? How about that? And can you stay off the ladder, please? I don't think that's going to work. Let's do this. Okay. This next question from the Harpers is really great. If humans could grow tails, would you want one? And if so, would it be decorative or prehensile? Yes, and prehensile. Could you perhaps tell us more about the character that you play during your Ren Fair performances, how the character came to be, and how you developed their aesthetic? I will answer this quickly. I do a show at Renaissance fairs. Some of you that have seen, there's one video, I don't even know what the subject matter is on the video. I think it might be something about going out of town, what I do to prepare to go out of town or something. At the very end of that video, there's a quick clip of me doing my show at Renaissance fairs, and it's a stand-up comedy show. It started off as just a stand-up comedy show. I had stopped touring comedy clubs altogether, and I wanted to get back to performing, but I didn't want to be on the road all the time. And somebody introduced me to Renaissance fairs. I had never been to one, but one of them was willing to pay me a couple $100 to come and just play mandolin and be funny. That was their whole thing. Like, just wander around, play your mandolin, and be funny. And I was like, okay, I could do that. And so I went, and I was like, this is actually kind of cool, this festival. And I watched some stage shows, and I went, I think I can write a stage show. I think I could be like, I could come up with a character and write a stand-up comedy stage show for Ren Fairs. So I did that. And the character, his name is Manus O'Toole. And he, at the time that I wrote it, it was like he was just the dumbest thief, constantly incriminating himself. He was just like a con man / thief that's always incriminating himself. And so I booked a bunch of festivals that year and went and did that show. And it worked. I mean, the audiences liked it. But I realized after that first season that you have to do something visual. Like, there's got to be some big visual thing, because it's the middle of the day. You've got kids there. You've got adults who are day drinking. You've got to do something visual also. And I've known how to juggle since I was a kid, but I had never performed it before, because I always kind of thought it was dumb and cheesy. But I thought, I could juggle at these things. I'm not good. Like, I know how to do it, and I could juggle clubs. That's, I could... I can take clubs and juggle 3 of them. That's it. I can't juggle more than 3. I can't go behind my back. I can't do tricks. I'm not like a juggler. But I thought I could do that. And there are jugglers that are hired to do Ren Fairs that are really good. They've spent their lives learning how to juggle. So if I just get the most dangerous things that I can find and juggle those, then I don't think I have to do any tricks. Like, that was kind of my theory. and it worked out that way. Look at Lucille coming out of my beard. Um, I can you guys? I'm really curious if you can hear her tongue flicks. I bet you can't, but she's checking out that mic. Um, anyway, this is becoming a much longer story than I wanted it to be. So, anyway, I juggle like cleavers and spearhead, big thick spearheads, and then I have these double-headed battle axes that I set on fire, and I juggle those. And I have chainsaw blades that I set on fire, so it's like the chain on a blade with a stick that I set on fire, and I juggle those. And the show basically the show is that he's still kind of, it's still kind of that character, but the thing about him being a thief that always incriminates himself is not so much part of the show anymore. The other thing, the one thing that I didn't like about shows at Renaissance fairs, and many of you I'm sure have been to Renaissance fairs and seen this, but the performers have to, you're not there as a patron of the Renaissance fair, you're not there to see their show, so you've got to gather people to your stage, and so as you're walking through, the people that are about to perform are screaming at the people, going, "There's a show we're playing music over here. Come sit down. There's a comedy show over here. We got stuff happening. Come sit down." I don't want to have to do that. So what I came up with for this character is that the show is called Manus O'Toole and His Imperial Tibetan Yak Show. He has a yak whose name is Clark, and I have a big banner that shows me standing on top of Clark, the yak, and it's this fantastic trained animal. And right before the show starts, Clark has gone missing. So instead of yelling at people to come to my comedy show and come to the stage, I'm frantically running around the festival asking people if they've seen my yak, because I have a yak show happening in like 10 minutes. And if I have to do a yak show without a yak, it's going to be very awkward. And people come to the show because they want to know what I'm going to do without the yak. So that's that. If you plan to come to my show, I've just ruined it for you. Sorry for the spoilers. That's the situation. It's a yak show, and it's basically stand-up comedy, improv with the audience. I sometimes bring audience members on stage, especially if it's little kids. They can be Clark. They can be the yak for me. We do that sometimes. And then we get into the crazy juggling. So it's a fun show. All right. Real quick. Okay, so I think that was it for Patreon questions. Now YouTube questions. Oh, you know what I want to do here? Let's switch snakes, you guys. Let's switch snakes. Hey, Lucille, hold on. She's hanging on to me now. Hi, I'm gonna put you back. Is that okay? You okay with that? Give me a second, you guys. Put that ticker back on. How come this? So this is rare. This is something that she doesn't. I was talking about how chill she usually is. She doesn't usually hang on to me like that. I must have been holding her awkwardly or something. All right, I'm putting you back. Actually, you know what? You can roam. You want to roam? There you go. Now you got options. So with a big ball python, you guys, with my large females, I oftentimes will put them in their enclosures and not close it. So now she has an option. She can either go in her hide or she can go roaming. And she's kind of deciding right now. So while we're at it, let's do this really quick. Some of you might notice that I've played musical names on my Patreon boards recently. So if you're in one of the tiers that's on here and you don't see your name in the spot that it's usually at, it's probably because I moved it. And if you're in one of those tiers and you don't see your name at all, let me know. But I'm really careful about that. I try to keep up with it and make sure that I have the right names in the right spots. But you guys, this Patreon community is growing, and it's really cool. It's, these are people that, you know, some people join Patreon and then I don't really hear from them, and that's okay. But there's a lot of people that have joined, and I hear from them a lot, and we chat back and forth, and they give me some great ideas for different things, and I just really like this community, and I like that we have this extra board that's growing. I like seeing a growing board. Welcome Raven, brand spanking new. All these people here are fairly new. But anyway, they're getting some perks, and they're helping the channel out a lot. So, thanks to them. I was going to get... Oh, there's Lucille. Hang on. Let me just make sure that I have my eye on her. I'm going to get a super dwarf out, but I want to make sure that Lucille is settled before I do that. I'm pretty, you know, I have these snakes out roaming a lot, and when they're out, I'm really careful about where they are, because obviously you don't want to step on a snake, and I know what they tend to do usually, and I can guess where they usually are, but I try to keep my eye on them. So Lucille is making her way under the couch, and she'll be there for a very long time, probably. But one of my big fears, like Keith was saying earlier, his big fear is that he forgets to lock an enclosure. Me too. But I also have a big fear that I'm going to forget that a snake is on the ladder. And, you know, if one of my big ball pythons goes somewhere else, they're easy to find. That's a 8-pound snake or whatever. Not Lucille. She's probably 6. But, you know, a super dwarf reticulated python, if they got off the ladder and I didn't see it, that would be a problem. So I'm pretty vigilant. Okay, so Lucille is gone. She's in her spot. Let me tell you about, as I get Stella, I'm going to get Stella. Stella is my new super dwarf reticulated python. Oh, my ticker's still on. Bam. There we go. Sorry about that. I got to pay attention to this thing. Let me tell you about Echo. So Echo had been pushing, which is something that reticulated pythons do. And I realized that she was pushing because her temps were a little bit too hot. She was at about 90 or close to 90 on her warm side, and it was making it probably 83, 84 on her cool side. And at night she would be pushing. So I turned her temps down to 85. And this is for a reticulated python. This is not ball python temps. So she's 85 on the warm side now, and just under 80 on the cool side. And she stopped pushing for like 2 weeks. I didn't see her push, and I was like, oh, that's great, because she had worn some scales right above her, like right under her eyes. She had some scales. You might be able to see in some videos that she's got 2 white dots. She was rubbing those, and I was like, man, she's ruining her face. What do I do? So she stopped pushing for a while, and now I fed her last week, and she started immediately pushing after she ate, which means she's still hungry. And they're always still hungry. Like, they're not, you could just feed them and feed them and feed them, and they'll get huge, and they're always still hungry. But she had a good enough meal, so I let her be. But then the next day, she's pushing all day long. And it's not, you know, when a reticulated python pushes, it's not just they go up to the cage and they push a little bit, and then they move and push. It's that they get their nose in a spot, and then they push to where their body is shaking like this, and then all of a sudden they'll fall. Like, they'll slip off and fall, and then they'll go back to it, and body shakes, so putting as much pressure as they possibly can. It's really stressful to watch. And so I thought, you know, I think she does that when she sees me in the room. I think she's doing it for me. So what I did is, when I went out of town this weekend, I left on Thursday, and I put a camera that I could watch her live on my phone, put a camera on the cage, watched her all weekend. She did not push. She moved all over her enclosure, went onto the ground. I almost never see her on the ground, so I'm watching her cruise around on the ground, do her thing, sleeping all day, coming out at night, doing her regular thing. As soon as I walked in the door yesterday, or Sunday night, I walk in the door Sunday night, I hear kablam in her cage, and it was her striking the cage door. and then she starts pushing again. So this young lady is a problem. I gotta figure out how to make her not push, and it might be that I've got to move her cage to a place where she doesn't see me all day. So we'll see. She was pushing a little bit today, and what I do is I just pull her out and put her on the ladder. And when she's on the ladder, she's fine. She cruises up and down, and then she goes up to the top and falls asleep, and she'll be asleep for hours on the ladder. So my point in telling that story is that she is sleeping right now in her enclosure. I'm looking at her right now on her shelf, and so I don't want to mess with her. So I'm going to put Stella on the ladder. And what I do with Stella, this is my choice on quarantines. Stella is at the end of her quarantine. She's been with me for 2 months now, I guess. And she's healthy, but she's technically still in quarantine. So I don't put them together. She's been on the ladder twice now in recent days. She was introduced to the ladder. And what I've been doing is I won't have them on the ladder together. I will once she's 3 months out of, quarantined for 3 months. But what I do is if I put her on the ladder, I'll just spray the whole thing down with F10 before Echo gets on it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get Stella because she's awake. But I wanna check the. Moniz is asking about merch. Yeah, I have merch that is basically just for Patreon right now. We got shirts and stickers that go to Patreon supporters, and I have not set up a situation where you can buy. What I either have to do is what I would have to do is set it up where somebody else is making it and shipping it out when you buy it, and then they give the creator a couple dollars, I guess. But I like to personalize the thing. Like I like to put a package together and write a little note and send it to the. I like to make it personal. So I've limited it to Patreon supporters for now, and we'll see. I think there will probably be stuff for sale in the future, but not yet. And no sweaters yet. I have a really cool sweater, and I like it a lot. That'll probably be available at some point. Lori says Stella, which is a great Streetcar Named Desire reference. Midnight Mandy, welcome. Glad you made it. I went through your questions already. You probably didn't hear them, but you can go back. Okay, so let me get Stella. Putting this banner back up because I made the banner. So, oh, you know what else I made? Look at this banner. I forgot to put up when we talked about Patreon. Look at that banner. There we go. I just forgot to use them. I'll figure out this software. Okay, here we go. That Lagavulin is lovely. Let me get Stella. She's awake and ready to be out. Hi, babes. So I'm going to let her come out on her own. She's been doing so well, for being only here 2 months. She's already used to me. She comes out on my hand. I'm just reaching towards her right now. Hi, do you want to come out? These snakes are so smart, these super dwarves. She is crawling on my hand right now. Hi. You want to come out? You want to complete that move? No? All right. She's doing the advance and retreat thing. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? What's this? How about this? What if we do like this? No, don't go there. Okay. She has this ball that she really likes that is in her enclosure. It's easier to pull her out when she's in the ball because I can just grab that. So she, before she was comfortable to crawl onto my hand, I would, because she likes this ball, I would reach up, and if she was, I have some track lighting that's on the ceiling that she would crawl on when she was more in quarantine. That Echo is never on, so that was kind of her tree. And when I needed her to get down from the ceiling, I would show her the ball and she'd crawl onto the ball. And I still do that occasionally, but she usually ends up crawling onto my hand. Tell you what, can I show you off before you get onto that tree? Can we show you off? Hi, what's on your head? Can I see your head really quick? What's that? Hang on. Oh, you're good. I was just lint. So she's gonna be really hard to show off. So this is for those of you who have not met Stella yet. She is my new super dwarf reticulated python. She is a 100% Kalatoa island. That is the second smallest locality of super dwarf. And I love these gray sides. Like she's got these big gray sides. It's a thing that they have. And Echo has them too. I wish we could compare them both side by side because Echoes are much smaller. Echo has more sort of yellow in there. And there's a gene called anery or anerytheristic that gets rid of the reds, basically. And she is possible het for anery, and based on her other siblings, when I picked her out, she's the most likely out of all of them to be het for anery because of these big gray sides that she has, at least in my opinion. Oh, there we go. Look at that focusing. I love that. Let's see if we can get her face. She wants to crawl up my arm, but we'll focus on her face. It's gonna be really hard. Oh, you get a little taste of face there. There we go. So Stella's got a really great personality. Let me look at the top of your head, because are you rubbing the top of your head, or is that just the way the light's hitting it? Can I see it really quick? So weird. She's got this light spot at the top of her head. I can't figure out what that is. I don't think she's rubbing her head. You can see it from there, right? I haven't seen her rubbing her head. Sorry. Just give me a moment as I look at this. Do you guys all inspect your snakes a lot when you pull them out? Can I just see your head really quick? I know you don't want me doing that, but she's okay. Like, she doesn't have any scales that are weird. But yeah, she has a lighter there. It's like she was rubbing it, but I haven't seen her rub her head. I think she's okay. All right, so we're gonna put her on there, and then I'm gonna keep my eye on her because she, Echo has Echo sort of has a routine on this ladder where she'll end up at the top and then she'll just go to sleep. There's a cliff that's twice the size of this. It's off screen, and Echo usually just goes to sleep on that eventually. But Stella, having not been on this ladder very much, has not established a routine yet. But I love this. I love that she'll willingly crawl onto me. Like, she crawls onto the ladder and then she's turned around and come back onto me. The other thing, I posted something on Instagram about this today. This thing right here is new. There used to be a ball, one of those holy balls, that Echo would crawl through, but she never stopped on. And I swapped it out for this thing. This is like a dog toy. She spent an hour on it today, just crawling onto it and out of it, and then back onto it and out of it, and inspecting the whole thing. It's pretty cool when you give them something new that they can interact with. because they really do. Hi, I'm trying to get you to. You're just gonna stay on me, okay? So that's that. Hold on, I'm gonna catch up to the people. Hang on, we've got a bunch of Warfels Morphs. Hi, welcome. Lori, glad you caught this for as long as you did. Go talk to your daughter in Germany. That's great. Is it still quiet, you guys? Is it? Did I move the mic too far away? I'm sorry. This is what happened at the beginning of the live stream. Let me get this mic closer. Sorry about that, you guys. Welcome to those of you who are making it late. Conversations with KT. Lena, glad you were here. What is the snake doing? Oh, she's... Here's the thing. They're not heavy enough to know where they're... Like, she's crawling on me. You can see her right there on my shoulder. She's... Oh, there she is. Look at her on my hat. I can't tell. Like, I can't feel that. She is very interested. You know, the thing about super dwarfs is they're so... It's not super... It's reticulated pythons, period. But, you know, they're just... She's just so curious about what's happening. I'm sitting here next to this ladder. The ladder's kind of new to her, but certainly a human being sitting next to it. She's never seen this hat before. This is all very interesting to her, and she wants to interact with it. You know, she's not afraid of it. She just wants to check everything out. And I just love that about them. They have really inquisitive little brains. Yeah, oh, that's another thing. Moni says her eyes are so cool. They are cool, and the interesting thing about their eyes is, you know, the contrast between their pupil and the rest of their eye is so much, because, you know, these are bright orange eyes with a black pupil, and you can see, look at her going onto the thing, when that pupil opens, you know, it's usually a slit, up and down slit, but when it opens really wide, that means they're really keying in on something. So they might be scared or whatever. But what it tells me, especially with Echo, is that's how I know she's in food mode. Is if she sees me at the enclosure and all of a sudden her eyes go round, her pupils go round, that means that she's excited for food. Like she's all of her senses are activated because she thinks she might be getting fed. So really good clue that they're in food mode. All right, she's going to the top. And she'll probably be back down shortly. Okay, Emery, thanks for being here, man. Conversations with KT. I am finishing up a dram of Lagavulin 16 right now. And, wait, there we go. Lagavulin 16, which I'm almost at the end of that bottle, too. It's one of my favorites. This is like, of the Isla Scotches, this is the dessert to me. This is the dessert of Isla Scotches. I think if I ever got to taste the Octomore, that would probably be the better Isla Scotch. That is at least a $400 bottle. So if anybody wants to get me a gift, the Octomore is one that I would love to try. Hi, Gabrielle. I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. Oh, you're right, Chuck. Thanks for reminding me of this banner. I appreciate you guys keeping an eye on my situation. I haven't looked at the screen enough to see the banner. Jared is asking, how big will a male super dwarf get? You know, it depends on the locality. Super dwarfs have a huge range of their sizes. It depends on the breeding. You know, you could breed a male 100%. Okay, so super dwarf only has to have 50% super dwarf blood to be called a super dwarf. So you could breed a male super dwarf, 100% super dwarf, to a female mainland, and technically that's a super dwarf. Um, but let's say the female mainland is a big giant Sulawesi female. Hang on, I got it. Speaking of female super dwarfs, I had to check on her. She's doing fine. The babies tend to take after the mother more so than the father for size. So you could end up with a super dwarf reticulated python that is 13, 14 feet long, 70, 80 pounds, something like that. So you really have to know the locality and the genetics and what the pairing was. So when I am looking to buy a super dwarf reticulated python, I want to know how big the mother was. I want to know the percentages, what's their percentage of super dwarf and what islands are they from, what's the locality, but then how big was the mom? That's a big question to sort of determine the size of the babies. And if you buy from Garrett at Reach Out Reptiles, who I recommend highly, he's pretty good at guessing what their size will probably be, and so and it is just a guess because it also depends on if you overfeed them, they're going to get bigger than their size. But if you know how to feed them and you do it sort of on a normal schedule, and you allow them to get to the size that they're supposed to get genetically, Garrett's pretty good at saying at guessing how big those babies will be based on the female. For mine, my thing with these reticulated pythons, it takes them a while to grow up to breeding size, but I do plan to breed them. Right now, they're just fun pets. I mean, all my snakes are fun pets. But the breeding plan for the super dwarves, I bought them strategically, is that I want very small super dwarfs. I'm looking at some morphs that I want to. I think I want to try to make cows, which are really tough to do right now, but by the time they're old enough to breed, it'll be a little bit easier. But anyway, I want the females to be as small as possible. So Echo is 50% Karampa, which is the smallest locality and the most rare. There's only a handful. There's like 5 breeding Karampas in the United States right now. So she's half her genetics are Karampa, 25% of her genetics are Kalatoa, which is the second largest, and then she's I think maybe a little bit of Jampea or something. I don't remember. And then Stella here is 100% Kalatoa. So they'll be pretty small. They'll be 7-8 feet long, which seems like such a big snake because we're ball python people, right? But don't think of a ball python that's 7 or 8 feet long. That would be a massive snake. Think of a 7 or 8 foot long snake that's like this thick. So the weight of a small adult ball python, 2,500 grams, maybe 3,000 grams, maybe. Just a lot longer and a lot thinner. So that is the thing with super dwarfs. She is coming down behind me. The fact that I saw that conversations with KT says she's coming down behind you. I rarely see these chats as they come in, but I just saw that come. Hi, babes. Hi, pretty girl. Look at you. You want to check me out for a minute? So this, the fact that I'm going to sit here while she curls on my hat. The fact that she just has no fear. She was a little bit fearful when I brought her home, maybe for a week. And then it took probably 3, maybe 4 weeks before she crawled onto me the first time willingly, like crawled onto my hand. I just would keep offering her my hand, and I'd put her up on the light, the track lighting. I make sure the light's off, by the way, but I'd put her up on the track lighting by the ceiling, and then I would just show her my hand. And I do this to Echo all the time too, but I would just show her my hand and let her tongue flick on my hand for a little bit. And then I wouldn't try to touch her. I wouldn't try to take her down or anything. I would just let her know that is a safe thing that she can inspect and smell and tongue flick on, and that's okay. Nothing bad is going to happen to her. And it doesn't take long for these snakes to realize that you're okay and are interesting. They are really engaged and interested in what you got going on. So I love that. I think it's so cool. Northern Lights, hi, welcome. Glad you made it. Yeah, Lena, the Lena says I've always been a BCI and a ball python person, but those are so interesting. Yeah, the super dwarf reticulated pythons are really cool. I like them a lot. The other thing, we're going to talk about this in next week's video, but I'll say it here. Echo, oh man, Echo's awake. I think she's going to start pushing. We'll see. We'll see if she starts pushing. Um, what was I saying? Oh, so I target fed Echo on the ladder last week. It was so what I did is I fed her a weaned rat, which is almost big enough to make a like you could kind of see a lump. It's a pretty small meal, but I tend to feed them small meals. So she definitely could have taken more, but that was when she started pushing again. She was like, "Give me more, give me," and she's just pushing all day. So finally, I put her on the ladder, and I went, "All right, I'm gonna feed her 2 button quail, which are little tiny. They're like day-old quail that are just super small." And it was her first time targeting on this ladder. She had never seen the target on the ladder, and the first time I showed her the target, she didn't really do much with it. But then I fed her the button quail in front of it. And then the second time she followed the target. So we'll see how she does with being targeted outside of her enclosure. She had never I've had her follow the target out of her enclosure and then fed her and then she goes back in, but I've never had her somewhere other than inside her enclosure when I've shown her the target. So it's a new thing for her. Poncho 400, welcome. Glad you guys made it. Glad you guys made it. All right, let's get to these questions because we are well into this. I said this was going to be a longer video, and it is. Okay, so Catherine is asking, I would love to hear any advice on finding/vetting a vet for reptiles, or an update on what's going on with Lacie Amendment, if you've heard anything. I will. I don't have like today's information on the Lacie stuff, but I will say that there are people that were saying that the Lacie Act stuff in the America Competes Act had been removed, and that's not true. So the problem is that that rumor went around, and I almost posted it. I was like, it's been removed. And then I thought, I'm just going to wait till I hear something from US ARC before I say anything, because right now it's just hearsay. And as it turns out, US ARC put a thing out saying that is not true. It's not been removed. So that's an important thing to bring up because I don't want people to get complacent. What happened was we all, hopefully all of us, wrote our senators and let them know the deal. Then they went on break, and I think in a couple weeks they're back. I'm talking off the top of my head, and this might not be accurate, but I think in a couple weeks they're back, and then they'll be negotiating on changes to make the Senate's document and Congress's document. That's the America Competes Act, is what Congress drew up. The Senate has their own. They're going to put them together and negotiate on what that's going to look like, and we want in that negotiation for the 4 pages of Lacie Act stuff to be taken out of there, because that has nothing to do with what that act is. So that's that. And then advice on vetting a vet for reptiles. For me, in vetting a vet, I just have to take my snake to the vet and see if I like that vet. I have one that I like. She's right down the road, and she's fantastic. But I've taken my snakes to another vet when she's not around. There's another one in Pasadena that I go to, and if I have a snake that I need to get checked out because I think they have a respiratory infection or something like that, and I want them checked out right away, I've taken a snake to the Pasadena vet, and I'll just take whoever's available because it's an exotic, whoever's working because it's an exotic vet specifically. And there was one vet that I just personally didn't like. Like he just didn't. He kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I decided I didn't like that guy. But I'll say this: that a lot of people get turned off by vets because they'll give you some sort of advice on your husbandry that you know to be not accurate for the species of snake that you keep. And I think it's important to remember that a veterinarian is trained to detect disease and to treat injuries and treat disease and stuff like that in snakes. Let's just say snakes in general. And I'm sure that they've studied certain species, but they definitely haven't studied every species in the world. And they're not about husbandry. They're about treating a snake. So they might give you advice that you know to be a little bit not accurate on the husbandry of the snake. But in treating the snake's disease, and you kind of have to be. I'm trying to think of an example. So maybe they tell you to feed your ball python twice a week. Let's say, for an example. Most of us know that that's too much. That's not accurate. I'm gonna just make sure that. Hold on a second. Okay. I gotta move her. She's above this door. So, hi. Can I move you for a second? Can I get you back on the ladder, please? Yep, we're just going back to the ladder. There you go. You want to come down the snake hook and see me? All right. She almost fell, but she got herself. Can I have my hook back? All right. Okay, she's good. There we go. Okay. So my point, I guess my point is, don't be turned off by a vet if they tell you something that's just husbandry related that's not right for your specific species. If I take my black-headed python to Dr. Seiko, who I love, she's fantastic, I'm guessing that she's never even seen a black-headed python before. Never worked with one before. But she knows snakes, and snakes' anatomies are basically the same. And she'll be able to look stuff up. That's what they do. They go in the back and they look stuff up, about your specific species. But in general, they know how to treat lizards. They know how to treat snakes, if they're an exotic vet. And that's what you want. So I think people get quickly turned off to vets because they think that a veterinarian should know every bit of husbandry for every single animal. And that's not their job. Okay, so... that was a long answer. Sorry about that. Andrew's saying, have you ever heard of a python gently biting someone? My wife and I got a ball python a few months ago. It was a rescue. This is one it's long, but I read it earlier. It's basically the snake is slowly opening its mouth and gently biting her. He's a fantastic eater. And it's calmed down tremendously since we got him and gotten the enclosure dialed in. Can't figure out why he does this. Yeah, I haven't ever seen a ball python do that. If you have a ball python that gently bites you, let me know. That's something that the Aspidaites species does. My black-headed python will do that. She'll be crawling up your arm and then just slowly open her mouth and bite down. Can I help you, young lady? But I have never seen a ball python do that before. That's really interesting. I love Missy says, can you please show more of your animals while talking about the Lacie Act? Thanks. I think we're handling that. Look at this animal, speaking of, crawling down my arm. Here. Oh, you're going back up? Did you change your mind? Okay. B-Boy Joker says, I would be interested in your current breeding projects and plans. We talked about that at the beginning. So we got that covered already. Greg's asking, do certain morphs eat better than other morphs? I've heard that before. I've heard people say that pieds don't eat well. And I certainly have one of my pieds that doesn't eat very well. Lucille is not a great eater. But I have two other pieds that eat great. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but people do say it. And I haven't heard of any other morphs. Maybe you guys can put it in the comments or the chats if you've heard of other morphs that don't eat well. I think it takes a lot, like you've got to have a large group to study to say that, you know, like if I have my 18 snakes and let's say all three of the ones that are visual pieds, even if all three of them didn't eat very well, that's still not enough for me to say pieds don't eat very well. That's just three of my personal snakes, you know. So I think it's tough to say that for sure. Keeping an eye on her. She's doing a lot of like reaching way out, and she's not used to being on this ladder, so I don't think she's got her sea legs yet. He's saying it appears that normals eat better, but I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I don't think that's a thing, that normals eat better. Talking about feeding schedules, what point should I stop feeding every week? I usually just look at the snake, and if it's a breeding female, I'm feeding every week. But my adult males, I usually feed every 2 weeks. And I would say, if I would put a number on it, I would say maybe somewhere between 500 and 700 grams. I would go every 2 weeks, you know, instead of every week. And it also depends on if they're a good eater or not. There's two. I guess there's two schools of thought with this. That if they're not a very good eater, you want to just see if they're going to eat this week. You know, if they refused last week, let's try it this week instead of waiting 2 weeks. But also, if they're not a very good eater, it sometimes does help to space out the offerings so that they're not seeing a rat every week, and you know, so in their mind they're like, I better take this, you know, because I'm not seeing it that often. So you could go either way with that. I guess that doesn't really give you a good directive, but it's something to think about anyway. Oh, this one, this is tough for me to talk about because it's hard to tell, but you're saying, leading into that, can we go into detail of what an overweight ball python looks like and maybe an underweight? I got my guy off eating every 7 days to every 10 days. Every 10 days is great, you guys. You can go from seven to 10 days pretty easily, you know, even as pretty young juveniles. Was worried that he was gaining too much fat. So, okay, so we'll talk about overweight versus underweight. First of all, when you have we're not talking about breeding females, but when you have a snake that is overweight, it's very difficult to get them to lose weight. And also, if they're showing signs of being overweight, meaning their spine is lower than the fat rolls above their spine, that snake has been overweight for way long before they showed it, because they store fat around their organs a lot more than we store subcutaneous fat really easily. They store it all internally before they start getting it under their skin. So if you're seeing an obese snake, they've been obese for a long time, and they don't lose weight nearly as fast. So it's tough to have them go the other direction. Now, a breeding female is going to be off food for months, and they're going to use a lot of those fat stores in the production of the eggs and things like that. So they're an exception. But I'll show you Kata, because Kata, if you look at Kata, she's a pretty fat snake, but she's also a breeding mama. So she's not hugely obese though, but she's probably the fattest one I have. All right, checking on that one, and then I'm going to grab Kata really quick. Kata's interesting because she is uncomfortable being held by humans. She's just not as used to it as my other snakes because I bought her as an adult and she wasn't handled much. But when allowed to come out, she chooses to come out a lot, and she's totally okay roaming my house with me there. She'll crawl right up to me and tongue flick on my foot, you know, and crawl over it to get somewhere. But I can tell when if I grab her from behind the couch or something, she's not comfortable with that. So give me just a minute, you guys, because I want to do two things. I want to check on Lucille and make sure that I know where she is. I think she's behind the couch, and then I'll get Kata and we'll talk about fat snakes. Change of plans. Lucille is behind the couch, exactly where I expected her. Kata is soaking in her water bowl right now. She is doing mama behavior. That is, she's bowl wrapping and soaking, so I don't want to disturb her. But I'll grab another snake that's fat, that's younger. Look at this. So Lydia Dietz. So I have two snakes that are subadults that are overweight right now that I'm cutting back on their feeding because of that. So let's just see who's available. Okay. So Lydia was not available, but we have Delilah here. Delilah is a pastel freeway, and you know she's not obese, so this is hard. This is difficult to tell, but I'm hoping that you can see on her. All right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it worse by squeezing her. So a snake that right behind their cloaca, if their tail looks like this behind their cloaca, that's an obese snake. Or an overweight snake anyway, and she's just barely getting there, and then she doesn't really have this either. I think of her as a fat snake because she's thicker than some of my others, but she's really not. The other thing is you want to be able to see their spine and not see fat rolls on both sides of their spine. You know, this is really not a good example. But she's a delightful snake, and I like her a lot. So, anyway, she'll be up to breeding size next season in the end of this year. Basically, she'll be breeding with Ron. I specifically got Ron to be her boyfriend, and Ron ended up with a couple other larger females since he was older when I got him. And in fact, that pairing of Ron and Freya that produced that really lovely clutch that I had last year. When I bought Ron, I thought he was a lot smaller than he was, and when he came in, he was almost up to size for breeding. And at the end of breeding season, he was up to size. And Freya had stopped locking with the inspector, and I was like, well, I'll just put him in as a backup male, and we'll see what happens. And what happened was a really stunning clutch of cool snakes. So that was cool. All right. So let me see if there's... I think I covered all the questions. So we've gotten through that. We're 2 hours into this, and I finally just got through the pre-written questions. And let me just see if AJ's asking, why are retics so much smarter than ball pythons? I don't know I don't know why. I don't know that I can say why. Speaking of smart retics, I might have to save one here in a second. So, we measure intelligence. It's tough because I don't think that we measure intelligence correctly. So when people say that retics are, all right, I'm just going to keep an eye on her. A lot of people say that retics are like the second smartest snake in the world, second to the king cobra, or maybe in the top 5 or something like that. But I think that has to do with how I got to put her down so that I can save Stella. It has to do with how we measure intelligence. And a snake that obviously wants to interact with us, and wants to know what's going on, is thought to be intelligent, thought to be a smart snake. I think she's going to stay there. Ball pythons tend to like to hide out, but I don't think it's accurate to say that they're less intelligent. Maybe they're just really smart because they know that if they hide, they're less likely to encounter trouble. I mean, it's hard to say. They're definitely trainable. Ball pythons you can train to follow targets and such. I would say that reticulated pythons pick up on that quicker, and that's why we would say that they're smarter. But that's just how we measure intelligence. We kind of do it the way. I think the only way we know how to measure it is how mammals act, and reptiles are very different than mammals. So that's my 2 cents on that. Hi, young lady. It's nice to see you. Yeah, you want to check out my hat? Look at how cute she is. Isn't she great? I'm a big fan of these freeways, and I really hope that I can produce some this year with Ron and Kata. Because Ron's got some, I would love to see a spot nose freeway. I'm sure that they've been produced. I just haven't seen them. Ron could throw spot nose freeways and inchy freeways. That's a Mardi Gras. Kata is supposed to have GHI in her, so she could throw some GHI freeways. I don't know that she does, though. I'm not sure if she actually has GHI, but I was told that she does. So, all right. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through here. Oh, Chuck, that's good. Yeah, I don't know if links work. I think links probably work in YouTube chat, but I don't know. But yeah, USARC/2022 Lacie. There's also a page that's 2022 Lacie 1 that has information on it as well. But that's where you go for the good, up-to-date information on the Lacie stuff. Okay, just scrolling through. I'm going to end this here shortly, you guys. I think some people are jumping out because it's late for a lot of people, especially those of you in the UK. Keith, I think Keith Harper, you took time off of work to be at this live stream, I heard. So that's amazing. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you were here. Oh, Jessica, you made it. Well done. I'm glad you're here. That's great. It's because I'm going so long on this one. I hope that... So Jessica, you guys, is a super talented artist, and she makes... Hang on. I've got one right in front of me. She made me a bunch of these awesome rocks. This one's Lucille's, where she drew my snakes and gave them each a rock. And she taught a painting class today. It was her first one. I hope it went well. I'm sure it went well. Shlee, I don't think savings would affect your snake's natural rhythm. You know, that's just an hour of, you know, when you turn your lights off, if that's different or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Some people have their snake rooms on timers so that when the sun goes down, the lights go off. I think that's a cool thing to do. But I just have mine on a timer, and I don't change the timer. I've got the vivarium, which are the lights are for the plants, but I've got that, and then Echo's light goes on and off on a timer, and that just doesn't ever change with daylight savings. Okay, hold on. I'm just scrolling through, you guys. I'm gonna miss a lot of your stuff. Sorry, you guys. So Keith, you took time off tomorrow so that you could recover for being up all night, and you're still with us. What are you, 8 hours ahead of? Is it 3 o'clock in the morning there? Is that what that is? Why won't you let go of my hand? She's so strong. So, I mean, this is kind of arboreal snake behavior, you know, to hang on to me like this. A blood python wouldn't do this, you know. I've always argued that, well, I don't argue with anybody on these things, but I've always said, and I made a video on it, that ball pythons are not semi-arboreal animals. They just don't spend enough time in the trees. But they can do this, you know. They certainly do climb, and they enjoy climbing, and it's good for them to climb, but I wouldn't call them semi-arboreal. But they certainly will hang on to your hand, like they've got a tail that can hang on. But if you look at, I'm going to put her back really quick. By the way, here's Delilah's rock that Jessica did. Super cute. There you go, babes. So if you look at a truly semi-arboreal snake, the reticulated python, their tail wraps much better. Hi, speaking of which, can you guys see her yet? Is she down far enough yet? Nope. Come on, no, don't go that way. Oh man, she was just coming down. I thought she was gonna, she didn't make it into frame. Anyway. Okay, guys, I tell you what, let me try to get Stella down, and then I think we'll end this, because 2 hours plus is long enough, right? I appreciate you guys sticking with me for this live stream, and I appreciate the fact that when I am not able to put out a produced video, I can do a live stream, and you guys are on board for it, and are okay with me doing that, because that just, I almost got her. Hang on. There we go. That's just a thing that has to happen sometimes. I get some really busy weeks, especially when I'm traveling. And I want to put out a video every week. I don't want to have to skip weeks, you know. I haven't yet. There hasn't been a week yet in the year or so that I've been doing these that I haven't made a video. So here's one more look at, there we go. Speaking of arboreal tails, that's how long it took her to get her tail off the hook. Let's see if we can get a good look of Stella. There we go. Wait. Focus. Get my face out of the way. There we go. Look at that beautiful snake. Okay. I'm going to answer one or two more questions. What would you recommend for a small... Hang on. Where is it? What happened? There we go. What would you recommend for a small arboreal snake? Small is no bigger than like 5 feet. I mean, it depends on what you're willing to do for care, but a great small arboreal snake is a green tree python. I would, if I was looking for a small, truly arboreal snake, I'd be all over green tree pythons. And also, I mean, either way, whether I was going to say an Amazon tree boa too. Those are small, thin. No, we're not talking about a basin, but small, thin. She is pushing again. So annoying, you guys. If somebody can invent some sort of juice or something to give a snake to get them to stop pushing, that would be fantastic. I have to deal with Echo, but I think I'm gonna bring her out and let her hang out with me for a bit after this live stream. Anyway, the point is, green tree python, Amazon tree boa. Those are cool, small arboreal snakes, in my opinion. Just Tommy says he likes the live streams better than the pre-recorded. That's cool. I'm glad you guys like the live streams. Spotted pythons, are they arboreal though? They're probably semi-arboreal. But yeah, all those Antaresia snakes I think are semi-arboreal. Although I'm not an expert on those. I'm not an expert on anything, you guys. I just do videos. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put her back. I'm going to stop Echo from pushing, and that's going to be it. So you guys, thank you so much for joining me on this live stream. I really appreciate it. We will obviously do more of these, and look for a video next week, I believe, on target training. We're going to go in depth and show some target training of some snakes. So that's that. All right. Thanks, you guys. I'm going to hit the end broadcast thing right now. See you soon.